Hi, the purpose of this video is to create a virtual machine that has Windows 10, SQL Server 2016, Microsoft Project, Visio 2016, for any class that you might need these in. Any other programs can easily be added in the same way. All you need to do is go into Microsoft's Imagine Network, download the ISO file, the disk image file, and install it and copy those into a directory where you can use them later. So this will work on a Mac or a Windows machine. The process is exactly the same once you install the VirtualBox from the VirtualBox download page. So I've already installed it. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it Win 10 for ISM classes. I've downloaded Windows 10 64-bit, so I'm going to go with that. Next, how much RAM do you want to use? Well, my machine has 16 gigs, so I would normally use about half of that. But since I may want to pass this virtual machine on to others, and they may not have that much RAM, I'm just going to create one that's 4 gigabytes or 4,096 megabytes. Hit Next. Create a virtual hard disk now. VDI disk image. Hit Next. I want fixed size because it'll run faster that way. Hit Next. So I have an external hard drive attached. It's on my E drive. And I'm going to create a new folder and call it the same thing, Windows 10 for ISM. Double click on it. The VDI file is going to be stored there, so I hit Save. Now I want to create about 100 gigabyte drive. I've got, looks like on my E drive I have 116 left, so I'm going to create 100 gigabytes and use up the majority of that drive. You can make it as big as you want. 100 gigabytes should hold all these programs with plenty to spare. So I'm going to hit Create, and this process probably takes about 5 or 10 minutes, so I'm just going to let this scroll through and shorten the video so that you don't have to watch that stupid little green bar slide slowly across the screen. See you in a couple of minutes. Okay, so it finished creating the 96 gigabyte file that I told it to create, and now it comes back to this screen. It's powered off, so all you have to do is double click on it, and it will prompt you for the location of where your Windows install file is. So that's in essence the startup disk. This is the file that I downloaded from the Imagine Network, or if you purchased Windows online, if you don't have a Imagine subscription, that's where you'll now point to where that ISO disk image file is. So I'm going to go out to my E drive where hopefully my Windows install disk is sitting out here. And it looks like I put it in a folder called Windows 10. I want the 64-bit. So this is the version that I downloaded off of the web. And then hit Start. So we're basically starting up a computer from scratch and loading the operating system into it. And if you pointed the last screen to the install disk, you should instantly get this little Windows icon set up. Now every different version of Windows is going to have slightly different input screens like this, but I'm going to plow through these as quickly as I can and take out all the dead space in the video. This Windows setup routine will probably end up taking about an hour, and I'll cut out all the boring parts. You'll need the product key, and I got that when I downloaded the file. Now I hazed out my key code for this video because you'll have your own key code that you get in your licensed version of Windows. Here I can either upgrade an existing install or install Windows from scratch, and that's what I want to do. So here's where you go get a cup of coffee and watch the bouncing ball go down the screen. When it's done, it may require a few reboots, but we've got time to do that, especially if you have some fresh coffee. Okay, it looks like we're going through our first reboot here after that last step. I'm going to use the Express settings here. Hi, we're setting things up for you. Well, isn't that awesome? Thanks a lot. This might take a while, no kidding. Well, I'm sure you will. To keep it simple, I'm just going to click on this local active domain.
I'm going to add a username here with a password and then a hint. You would put your name in here and your password and your...
Boy, that's good to know. Ta-da, we have a Windows screen. If it comes up with this, the answer is yes. The next thing I want to do is to set up the ability to take files from my remote Windows machine on the E drive and drag them onto my desktop here so that I can install the other programs that I want that I showed you earlier, those ISO files for Project and Visio and SQL Server. So the first thing I have to do is come up here and say Insert Guest Editions CD. So after I click on that, I need to go to File Explorer, so I'm going to hit the Windows E key and open up File Explorer. And down here on this PC is my D drive. So I want to expand that or open it. And I want to be able to see the extensions on these files. So I'm going to hit View and say Show File Name Extensions. And here's this VirtualBox Windows Editions, EXE. Double click on that. Hit Next. Hit Next. You shouldn't have to edit anything in here. Just plow through it and click Install. This takes about a minute. Click on Yes here. Oh, looks like we need to reboot, so let's go ahead and do that. And again, we're just rebooting the virtual machine, not our actual Windows or Macintosh. All right, so I get the pretty landscape and click on something, and it asks me for my password. All right, so our Windows 10 machine has now opened up, and I want to set up some shortcuts that allows me to copy files from my physical Windows machine or Macintosh, if you're using a Mac, onto this virtual Windows machine. So we go up here to Devices, and first off, let's do a shared clipboard so we can copy and paste stuff each way. And then let's do drag and drop. I'm not sure if this works, but we'll do it anyway. And finally, we want to do shared folders. So if I want to share files from my physical machine into my virtual machine, I have to set up a folder in here that my virtual machine can read off of my physical machine. So where do I want to get it from? Other.
First off, I want to go out on my E drive because that's where all the files are because that's where all my software installation files are sitting.
I want it to automatically mount. And then I also may want to create another drive that looks just at my document folder on my physical machine as well. So if you're doing this for a Mac, you might want to tie it, for instance, to your My Documents folder so that your Windows machine can see everything from your Mac's My Documents folder. Again, automatically mount it, make it permanent, and hit OK, and hit OK. Now if I go to File Explorer, Windows E is the shortcut, keyboard shortcut for that. You'll see under the network drive, VirtualBox Server, widen that out a bit, and you'll see the documents folder from my physical C drive on my physical machine, and the downloads folder for my E drive, which is on remote drive. Again, this is where I house all of my ISO disk image files that I downloaded from the web. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to install SQL Server. So I probably could install it off of the remote E drive, but I think it'll go quicker if I install it onto the desktop of my virtual machine. So I'm going to copy it onto my desktop, and this might take a minute or two, but it will install quicker if I do that. I think I'll also drag Visio and Project over while I'm at it. Let's make it big so we can see all this. So SQL Server is copied onto the desktop. I'm going to go ahead and drag Project over here and Visio as well. Okay, so Visio is here, Project is here, and SQL Server is here. I'm going to install SQL Server off of this file, and then after it's done, I'll move it to the recycle bin so I can reclaim my hard disk space on this virtual machine. So if I look at this PC, here's my 96 gigabyte hard drive, and 78 gig are free, but each of these install files is 2 or 3 gigabytes, so I can free up a little more space for future expansion if I want. Okay, so to install SQL Server, all you have to do is on this ISO image file, right click and say mount. You might be able to double click on it, but I'm just in the habit of doing this. And there you have a setup file. That is what you want to do. So I just double click on that and get ready to start clicking. So I click on install, new SQL Server standalone install, or add features to an existing installation. So this is what I want. I'm going to go with the free edition, accept the terms. Let Microsoft Update check for updates. If you get down to this step, we're at install rules. Hopefully it all passed. Ran into a warning on the Windows firewall, but we don't care about warnings, so let's plow on. Select all. Next. Okay, so we got to the rules section, and it says .NET Framework 3.5 Service Pack 1 is required. Java Runtime Environment 7 Update 51 64-bit or higher is required. So it looks like I'm going to have to go out and get those by Googling those exact things. So I'm going to open up Microsoft Edge. Right now it's the only browser on this virtual machine. I'll install Chrome later when I get around to it. .NET Framework 3.5 Service Pack 1. Service Pack 1 download. Yeah, that's probably what I want to do. Download this. Yeah, that's it. Making sure that I get it from the Microsoft site. No, I don't want to buy your machine. I do want to do this though. So it's downloading it, running the security scan. Thank you very much. Run. Download and install. Yep. If you're installing SQL Server onto your existing Windows PC, chances are you already have this .NET framework, but since we're creating a virtual machine from scratch, this hard drive's pretty stripped down. There's not a whole lot of extra stuff in it, so it doesn't surprise me that we have to install part of the .NET framework in order to get all this working. All right, so I downloaded it and installed the .NET 3.5 framework. So I'm going to go back a step, minimize my browser. We'll see if I have to go get Java here in a couple minutes. Okay, so I hit the back button and I get back to here. Now let's go next again. And it's going to run that check again. And let's see if we pass the .NET framework piece. And then we'll see if we have to really install Java. Okay, so it failed that test again. So I guess we have to go back out to the web and search for, let's see, JRE download. Sure, Java Runtime Environment. We'll go with this top one. I'm not sure what the differences are between 151 and 152. They're both bigger than the version 7 that it's asking for, but I'll pick the most recent updated one here. And let's see, I want the 64-bit offline. That's a self-contained executable. And I'll wait yet another 25 seconds. Notice that I'm surfing the web from within my virtual machine. So it's a fully functioning Windows machine now. And I can go down and download just about any programs that I want, but I'm going to keep this virtual machine stripped down to just what I want for my purposes. Run it. Are you sure? Yes. Welcome. Oh, thank you. Install. 3 billion devices run Java. Isn't that nice? All right, so Java should now be installed. Now let's go back and run that check. See if we pass all of our checks this time. All right, we passed all of our checks. So now we're on to the instance configuration. So that instance ID is fine. That's the default one. Hit next. Okay, so we get to this page. And I believe we can just accept all the defaults. Some things start automatically, some things you have to start manually, but those are the things we don't really care about. So, all right, so here's our first big decision point where we actually have to do something. So we're going to open it in Windows authentication mode, which means it will check to see that your user is the administrator on this machine. And here's a list of all the administrators that are going to be capable of doing anything on this. So if you leave this blank, you're in trouble. You'll be installing SQL Server and no one will have the ability to run it. So add current user, and there's the user. Next. We have to do this for analysis services as well if we want to do some data mining, which you just may want to in SQL Server because it's pretty cool. Next. Install and configure, reporting services, install. Let's do it. Who has the permissions to do the distributed replay controller service? Not sure what that is, but I want it. Not sure what to put in there, but let's try that. All right, I think we're finally ready to install. All right, so about half an hour later, we actually installed and everything succeeded. Yay, green check marks. Cool. So we hit close, and I think this app is finally ready to run. So if I were to run it, let me close out of this installation center, clear my desktop. To run it, I'm going to hit the Windows key. Let's see if I type in SQL Server Management Studio. I think you could probably also type in SSMS. Yep, that's another way to the same thing. All right, it takes a couple minutes to load the first time, but it comes up and we have a database engine here, desktop, Windows authentication, ISM user, hit connect. The moment of truth is at hand. So we come over here, we have a desktop, SQL Server Rev 13, we have databases. All right, let's try creating a new one. Right click, new database, call it, I don't know, delete me if found, no spaces. Don't put spaces in your database names. So it correctly made a database. Let's see if we can make a table. New table, person ID, int, allow nulls never for a primary key. Click on the little key to make it a key. Hit save all, call it a person table, or person, and notice it doesn't show up here until you actually hit right click on that and say refresh. There you have a person table. And let's see if we can edit the top 200 rows, see if we can actually do something in the table. So far so good. I think we're in good shape. Person ID of 1. Yay, we have a person, we have a database, we have a table. This all checks out, and that is it for SQL Server. If I wanted to now go in and install Project and Visio and any other applications that I want to, this Windows machine is ready to go with how much spare space. Let's see, right click on that, say File Explorer, this PC. So it looks like I've used about 28 gigabytes of space, which gives me 67 gigabytes free to put in anything else I want. All right, I think that's it for now. Thanks a lot and go Knowles.